this will be crucial for the 49ers in their Week 18 matchup versus the Seattle Seahawks, because if the Bears game taught us anything, it's that there needs to be some changes made if they want a chance to win this game and claim the number 1 seed in the NFC. And we're going to break that all down for you on this episode of Niners Digest, the final episode of 2025. Thank you again so much for watching. My name is Ethan Galbraith. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because 97% of you haven't done so yet. It's free to subscribe, so make sure you do so you don't miss any Niners updates, because we're going to give you everything we got, including what defensive changes the Niners need to make before the matchup with the Seattle Seahawks. It all comes down to this. Week 18 on the line for the number 1 seed in the NFC playoffs. The Niners have put themselves in a great position, but they just got to close it out strong. And Seattle has been holding on to that number 1 seed for a couple weeks now. You know they want to keep it, because both of these teams think if they can make the NFC playoffs run through their home field, they have a really good chance at the Super Bowl. I know the Niners do if that's the case, but I want to talk about what defensive changes need to be made before this game, leading into this game, because as I talked about in my previous video, the win versus the Bears was great for the offense, but not so great for the defense. So let's jump right into it, because I want to talk about the defensive side this time. And no better place to start than with Caleb Williams' performance versus this Niners defense. Williams was as advertised. He is, of course, the former number 1 overall pick and has been playing lights out football all season, and he showed it on the national stage on the road. And the Niners pass coverage didn't do a whole lot to restrict him. Obviously, not the greatest completion percentage, 25 of 42, but he threw for over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers, and he didn't get sacked either. I'll talk about that in a little bit, and a 100.3 QBR. So Williams played great. And so if the Niners, the first part that's crucial for the Seahawks game, that's a takeaway from the Bears game, is that the secondary just needs to play better. And I understand that it's a little more, it's not as simple as just the secondary needs to play better. Part of why the Niners secondary has had moments where they get torched is because there's very little, if any, pass rush, consistent pass rush from this defensive line. But it's important to still get the personnel in there, and I think the personnel is coming back. As one of the biggest notes from practice this week is that cornerback Renardo Green, who's been out recently with a neck injury, is off the injury report, and he's expected to start versus the Seahawks. This is huge, of course, because Renardo Green usually starts alongside Diamador Lenore, and Lenore has been playing great football. That's what you kind of expect from your number 1 corner. He's been playing as such, despite Caleb Williams playing really well. It wasn't really on Lenore, to be honest, but it is a team effort. So having Renardo Green back is going to be a big deal, because the Seahawks have weapons, and the Bears had weapons as well, and they used them, pretty much all of them. If you look at up and down, they stuffed the stat sheet. Williams didn't necessarily have a favorite target all night. Of course, you could say it was Luther Burden, who absolutely torched the Niners defense, especially on the final drive with some crucial conversions, and Colston Loveland as well. But everybody got love and got catches and had big chunk plays. Of course, Luther Burden and Loveland had the 2 touchdowns, but it was a team effort from the Bears. And against the Seahawks, the Niners should expect to see the same exact thing. They have a plethora of weapons, including 2 really great running backs in Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. I'll talk about the run game in a second, but going back to the secondary, it's not all perfect. Of course, with Renardo Green likely coming back for Week 18, that's going to be a huge addition to the secondary, but it's not all perfect because Upton Stout is in concussion protocol. And of course, as I've talked about previously with Nick Martin being in concussion protocol, you want to take this super seriously. This is no joke. So I really don't know if we should expect to see Upton Stout on the field Saturday, because it's such a short turnaround for the Seahawks game. And that's obviously a big hit, because of Upton Stout is a rookie cornerback. He has had ups and downs like all rookies do, but he has really stepped up to the plate when it matters in big moments. You think about in games throughout the season, he's against the Cardinals, for example, in the home opener, he had the major 3rd down breakup that prevented the Cardinals from adding points to their lead. So Upton Stout not being able to play would be a big hit, especially because the Niners secondary behind Diamador Lenore and Renardo Green and Upton Stout has not played the greatest. Chase Lucas was out there and got a good amount of reps against the Bears on Sunday night, and he just didn't play that well. That's not a knock on Lucas, of course. He is filling in for an otherwise solid corner in Green, but it's proof that the depth is going to be an issue. Yes, you want to do next man up, but it's not always going to be the best result. So having Renardo Greenback is going to be huge. Upton Stout is going to be a player that you really want to look out for to see if he's going to be able to play. But the passing game was only one element of it because the Bears had their way in the run game as well. They averaged 5 yards a carry, and DeAndre Swift, despite only getting 9 carries, made the most of it, obviously scoring 2 touchdowns. So the Niners' run defense has, coming off of the Colts game from 2 weeks ago where they held Jonathan Taylor in check, this was more of a modest game from them. It wasn't great. Obviously, you would like to give up less than 5 yards a carry on the ground game, but they only had 22 attempts. So it's a scheme thing as well, but it's also a red flag in my opinion. And it leads me to wonder about what the Niners can do in terms of the linebacker, that second level. And of course, we've had Tatum Bethune come back, and he's been playing overall pretty solid. And Curtis Robinson wasn't active for the most recent game versus the Bears, but Eric Kendricks was. And so it leads me to wonder if the Niners should be giving Eric Kendricks more reps. I've talked about Kendricks a couple times in videos this season because, of course, he was a midseason pickup put on the practice squad, has been elevated recently, and you've seen him on the field from time to time, but not in major impact situations. They're not bringing him on to be a major impact player, but he's proven in the past, as recently as last year, that he still can be. In 2024 with the Cowboys, I've talked about this previously, he was a great linebacker for them. So he's still got it if the Niners need him to step up to the plate. And I think it might get to a point where the Niners need him to. This is not a knock on Tatum Bethune or any other linebackers. It's just, if Eric Kendricks is on your roster, why not try to utilize him more? This is a veteran player who's been in big moments like what the Niners are about to get into this Saturday versus Seattle. I think it's worth it to give him more reps and put him out there, not just to say that I was right earlier this season when they first signed him saying he was going to play meaningful reps. But I think he's a player that's built for these meaningful reps. So keep an eye on Eric Kendricks. I think he will be a player that the Niners could utilize more in Week 18 and then going into the playoffs as well, especially because the Niners and Seahawks are pretty fairly matched in terms of offense. I want to show you this right here. These are the top offenses in the NFL, and the Niners and Seahawks are nearly deadlocked in terms of best offenses. So if you want to talk about what the capabilities of the Seahawks offense are, obviously we saw them play in Week 1, and the Niners got the best of them, but that was more of a defensive slugfest. I don't expect this game to be that way. The Niners and Seahawks have high-powered offenses that have been on a roll recently, and their defenses have been a little suspect. Of course, the Seahawks have been playing a little more consistent on defense, but I expect this to be more of a shootout than the first matchup. So this is all the more reason why the defense is going to matter all the more. So my final thoughts are this. What's crucial for the Niners is that they get healthy, of course. We've been saying that all year. But they make necessary personnel changes that might improve what they're trying to do here. For example, maybe Eric Kendricks needs more reps. Maybe he is built more so for these big moments that the Niners need when they need players to step up. So Eric Kendricks might be a player who might be getting more reps soon. And look out for Renardo Green, who should be coming back this week versus the Seahawks. So a lot of pieces still moving around, but what's crucial is that the Niners organize it, and I don't know if they're going to really try anything super drastically different for the Seahawks game. This is a division rival after all. You know them pretty well. They know you pretty well. It's just going to come down, I think, to, who executes better. And obviously it helps if you have a healthier secondary out there as well. But that's all for this episode of Niners Digest. Thank you again so much for watching. My name is Ethan Galbraith. We'll see you in 2026. Thank you for watching.